What if the thing you're terrified of losing was never truly yours to begin with? You fear losing people, money, status, youth, success, even the life you've carefully constructed. But look closer. Everything you have is temporary. The moment you believe something must remain, you give it the power to control you. Freedom begins when you understand the difference between having something and being owned by your fear of losing it. Because the first truth you must confront is this: nothing is promised to stay. There is a quiet assumption hidden inside the way most people live, that what they have today will still be there tomorrow. They may understand intellectually that life changes, but emotionally they behave as though the important things in their lives have been granted permanence. They become attached to a person and begin thinking of that person's presence as a guarantee. They achieve success and begin treating that success as an identity. They accumulate possessions and gradually attach their sense of security to them. They build a comfortable routine and start believing that the routine is their life. Then something changes, and they feel betrayed by reality itself. But reality never made that promise. Nothing is guaranteed to remain exactly as it is simply because you love it. People change, circumstances change, bodies change, relationships change, opportunities disappear, wealth moves, reputation rises and falls. Even your own personality changes as you move through different stages of life. You are not the same person you were 5 years ago, and you will not be exactly the person you are today 5 years from now. The mind resists this because permanence feels safe. If something remains, we can stop thinking about its disappearance. We can relax. We can build plans around it. We can say, "This is mine," and temporarily silence the uncertainty underneath that statement. But the uncertainty never disappeared. You simply stopped looking at it. This is why the fear of losing something can become stronger than the pleasure of having it. You stop experiencing the thing itself and begin monitoring its survival. You are no longer enjoying the relationship. You are checking whether the other person still loves you. You are no longer enjoying success. You are worrying about whether someone else will surpass you. You are no longer appreciating money. You are thinking about how quickly it could disappear. You are no longer living inside the moment. You are standing outside it, guarding it. The irony is that the attempt to protect everything can prevent you from experiencing anything. Look at a relationship that becomes dominated by fear. One person begins worrying constantly that the other will leave. They seek reassurance. They analyze messages. They notice every change in tone. They become suspicious of harmless behavior. They ask questions not because they are curious, but because they are trying to eliminate uncertainty. Slowly, love becomes surveillance. The relationship may still exist physically, but psychologically it has changed. The person is no longer simply loving someone. They are trying to prevent a future loss. That is a very different state of mind. The same thing happens with success. Someone finally reaches a level they once dreamed about, but instead of feeling satisfied, they become terrified. Now they have something to lose. The promotion creates pressure. The money creates anxiety. Recognition creates comparison. The achievement that was supposed to create freedom becomes another thing they must defend. This is one of the hidden costs of possession. The more you believe something defines your security, the more power it gains over your emotional state. And this leads to a difficult realization. Sometimes you are not afraid of losing the thing itself. You are afraid of who you believe you will become without it. If the relationship ends, who are you? If the money disappears, who are you? If the position disappears, who are you? If people stop applauding, who are you? If the body changes, who are you? If the dream fails, who are you? These questions expose where attachment has become identity. There is nothing wrong with caring about these things. The problem begins when your entire sense of self is built on circumstances that can change without asking your permission. A person who understands impermanence does not become detached from life in the sense of becoming emotionless. They become more realistic about it. They understand that having something and owning something permanently are two different concepts. You may have someone in your life for 20 years and still never truly own their presence. You may share experiences, build memories, support one another, and love deeply, but the other person remains a separate human being with their own choices and their own path. You may have money for decades, but money is still temporary. You may have a beautiful home, but the home is still subject to circumstances beyond your control. You may have a strong body today, but the body has its own timetable. You may have a successful career, but industries change, markets change, organizations change, and opportunities shift. The mature response is not fear, it is awareness. When you accept that something can disappear, you stop treating its presence as an entitlement. And strangely, this can make you appreciate it more. Think about how differently you experience something when you know it is temporary. A vacation feels different because you know it will end. A conversation with someone you love feels different when you realize time is limited. A quiet morning feels different when you recognize that your life will not always contain mornings like this. Permanence does not necessarily reduce value. It can intensify it. A sunset does not become meaningless because it disappears in minutes. Its temporary nature is part of what makes it beautiful. The same principle applies to many experiences in life. The problem is that human beings often want the beauty without the condition that creates it. We want the relationship without the possibility of separation. We want youth without aging. We want success without uncertainty. We want life without death. We want possession without the fear of loss. But you cannot separate these things so neatly. The temporary nature of life is not an error in the system. It is the system. Possession creates fear. The more tightly you grip something, the more frightened you become of losing it. This principle appears everywhere. Look at someone holding something fragile. If they know it is valuable, their hands become tense. They grip harder. They become hyper-aware of every movement. Their fear of dropping it changes the way they hold it. Human beings do something similar with the things they value. We become possessive because possession gives us the illusion of control. We say, my relationship, my career, my house, my reputation, my success, my future. The language seems harmless, but underneath it can be a psychological claim. This belongs to me, therefore it should remain available to me. And when reality threatens that assumption, fear appears. The problem is not ownership in the practical sense. You obviously need to take responsibility for your possessions, commitments, and relationships. The problem is psychological ownership. The belief that something must continue because you need it to continue. That belief makes you vulnerable. If your happiness depends completely on someone staying, that person has enormous psychological power over you. If your identity depends completely on your career has enormous power over you. If your self-worth depends on admiration, the opinions of strangers control you. If your security depends entirely on wealth, every financial fluctuation becomes an emotional threat. You may think you possess these things, but psychologically, they possess you. This is why desperate attachment often produces the behavior that creates the very loss you fear. Someone terrified of losing a relationship may become controlling. Someone terrified of losing respect may become aggressive. Someone terrified of losing status may become obsessed with appearances. Someone terrified of losing money may become incapable of taking reasonable risks. Fear changes perception. You begin seeing threats everywhere. A delayed message becomes rejection. A colleague's success becomes competition. A friend's independence becomes abandonment. A small mistake becomes disaster. The mind begins constructing enemies around the thing it is desperate to protect. And once you enter this state, you are no longer responding to reality. You are responding to imagined loss. This is why emotional freedom requires a certain relationship with uncertainty. You must be able to say, I value this, but I can survive without controlling it. That sentence is more powerful than it sounds. It means you can love without suffocating. You can build without becoming terrified of collapse. You can succeed without making success your identity. You can possess without becoming possessed. Consider the difference between holding a bird in your hand because it has chosen to rest there and crushing it because you are terrified it might fly away. The first is appreciation. The second is possession. And the irony is obvious. The harder you squeeze, the less likely the bird is to remain. People are similar. You cannot make someone love you by controlling them. You cannot make someone loyal through surveillance. You cannot make someone stay through fear. You cannot create permanent security by eliminating another person's freedom. At some point, every relationship requires trust, and trust contains uncertainty. That is precisely why it is difficult. You are saying, in effect, I cannot control everything you will do, but I choose to meet you without trying to imprison you. That is strength. The same principle applies to achievement. Build your career, but do not worship your position. Build wealth, but do not make wealth the foundation of your identity. Develop your body, but do not believe your physical appearance determines your worth. Create a reputation, but do not become dependent on applause. The goal is not to stop caring. The goal is to care without becoming psychologically enslaved, because everything external is vulnerable to change. The only rational response is to strengthen what exists beneath the external layer: your judgment, your discipline, your ability to adapt, your capacity to begin again, your ability to remain calm when circumstances shift. These qualities become increasingly valuable when life refuses to cooperate with your plans. And there is another paradox here. When you become less desperate to keep everything, you often become better at caring for what you have. A person who knows their relationship is not guaranteed may listen more carefully. A person who knows success can disappear may remain humble. A person who knows money can move may manage it more intelligently. A person who understands that time is limited may stop wasting it. Acceptance of impermanence can produce greater responsibility, not less. You stop saying, I have forever. You begin saying, I have now. That changes your priorities. You stop postponing appreciation. You stop assuming there will always be another opportunity. You stop treating people as permanent fixtures in your life. You begin noticing the ordinary moments that you once ignored. And perhaps this is the deepest lesson of all. The fear of losing something often comes from pretending that you were entitled to keep it forever. But you were never promised forever. You were given a period of access, a period of experience, a period of relationship, a period of opportunity, a period of life. And the wiser response is not to demand that the period never end. It is to use the period well, because when you stop asking life to guarantee permanence, you can finally stop wasting the present trying to secure the future. You can be with people without constantly imagining their absence. You can pursue goals without allowing the fear of failure to paralyze you. You can enjoy success without becoming terrified of its disappearance. You can hold something with open hands, not because it does not matter, but because you understand that everything meaningful becomes more valuable when you stop pretending it belongs to you forever. Learn the difference between love and ownership. Love and ownership can look similar from the outside, but internally they come from completely different places. Love says, I value you. Ownership says, you belong to me. Love allows another person to remain free. Ownership becomes threatened by freedom because it depends on control to feel secure. You can love someone deeply and still understand that they are not your possession. They have their own mind, desires, ambitions, fears, and choices. Their presence in your life is something to appreciate, not something you are entitled to permanently. This becomes difficult when fear enters the relationship. You begin monitoring instead of trusting. You demand constant reassurance. You become disturbed by independence. You interpret distance as rejection and disagreement as betrayal. What you call protection may actually be an attempt to control the uncertainty surrounding another human being. Real love requires accepting uncertainty. You can care deeply while understanding that another person's choices remain outside your control. You can give affection without demanding obedience. You can commit without turning commitment into imprisonment. Ownership destroys what it tries to preserve because people eventually resist being treated like possessions. The more aggressively you attempt to control someone's freedom, the more likely you are to create resentment, distance, and emotional exhaustion. There is greater strength in saying, I want you here, but I will not destroy your freedom to make myself feel secure. That is not weakness, it is emotional maturity. Stop building your identity around what can disappear. One of the most dangerous forms of attachment occurs when you stop merely having something and begin becoming it. Your career becomes your identity. Your wealth becomes your identity. Your relationship becomes your identity. Your appearance becomes your identity. Your reputation becomes your identity. Then when circumstances change, the loss feels existential. A person loses a job and feels worthless. Someone loses a relationship and feels as though their entire future has vanished. Someone experiences financial difficulty and suddenly believes they are nobody. Someone grows older and feels disconnected from the person they once were. The external thing disappeared, but the deeper damage came from having built the self around it. This is why you need an identity that can survive changing circumstances. Develop qualities that do not depend entirely on what the world gives you. Discipline, judgment, patience, courage, adaptability, and the ability to begin again. You can lose a position without losing your capacity. You can lose money without losing your intelligence. You can lose a relationship without losing your ability to love. You can lose status without losing your character. The goal is not to become indifferent to external things. Build, achieve, love, and enjoy them. Just do not make them the foundation of your existence, because anything external can eventually change. But when your sense of self is rooted deeper than your circumstances, loss may hurt you without completely destroying you. Accepted that loss is part of the price. Everything meaningful carries the possibility of loss. Love can end, success can disappear, money can fluctuate, and opportunities can close. Trying to remove all possibility of loss will only make you afraid to fully participate in life. You cannot demand certainty before you commit, create, love, or pursue something important. The mature approach is to understand that risk is built into existence. You can care deeply while accepting that circumstances may change. You can build something knowing it might someday collapse and still decide it is worth building. Loss is not always evidence that you chose badly. Sometimes it is simply the price of having experienced something valuable. Do not let fear turn the present into a funeral. Many people begin grieving things before they are gone. They sit beside someone they love while imagining losing them. They achieve something and immediately worry about maintaining it. They enter a relationship and start preparing emotionally for its ending. Their body is present, but their mind is living inside a future catastrophe. This steals the only moment they actually possess. If someone is still beside you, be with them. If an opportunity exists, use it. If life is giving you something beautiful, allow yourself to experience it without constantly calculating when it might disappear. Impermanence should not turn today into a rehearsal for tomorrow's pain. It should make you more attentive to what is happening now. Let impermanence make you fearless. When you truly accept that nothing remains forever, fear begins to lose some of its authority. You stop demanding guarantees from life and start developing the ability to adapt. You understand that rejection can happen, failure can happen, relationships can change, and circumstances can disappear, yet you can still remain standing. The goal is not to become careless or emotionless. It is to become confident in your ability to rebuild. When you know you can survive change, you no longer need to control every outcome. You can take risks, love honestly, pursue meaningful goals, and accept uncertainty without allowing it to dictate every decision you make. Appreciate without clinging. There is a difference between appreciating something and desperately trying to possess it. You can love someone without demanding that they remain forever. You can enjoy success without believing it defines your worth. You can value an opportunity without assuming another one will never come. Appreciation says, I am grateful this exists. Clinging says, this must never leave. The first creates presence. The second creates anxiety. When you understand impermanence, ordinary moments become more valuable. You stop postponing gratitude and stop treating people, time, and experiences as permanent fixtures. You hold what matters with care, but not desperation, knowing that its temporary nature does not make it meaningless. It makes your attention to it more important. The deepest lesson is not that you should stop caring. It is that you should stop confusing care with possession. People will change. Relationships will evolve. Success will rise and fall. Opportunities will appear and disappear. Even the person you are today will eventually become someone different. You cannot control the movement of life, but you can control whether you spend your life fighting reality or learning how to move with it. Love without trying to imprison. Build without believing you are entitled to permanence. Achieve without making achievement your identity. Appreciate without clinging. And when something leaves, allow yourself to feel the loss without allowing the loss to convince you that you have lost yourself. Because strength is not having everything you want forever. Strength is knowing that even when something disappears, you can remain. So hold what matters with care, but never with desperation. Nothing is truly yours forever. You only have the privilege of experiencing it while it is here. If this changed the way you think about loss, comment, I will appreciate without clinging. And if you want more powerful ideas about psychology, discipline, human nature, and mastering yourself, subscribe to the channel, because when you stop demanding that life stay the same, you finally become free to live it.